How about that? Hey, BK here, in for our pal Liv Mood's going to try to digest this Nuggets loss and figure out exactly what it means. Going to get to plenty of comments. Going to hear from Michael Malone, but want to let you know that this and every one of our off-court live post-game shows, as well as our off-court shows during the week, are presented by our friends at Trusted American Mortgage. They want to help you save money and refinance today. So go to trustedamerican.com. That is trustedamerican.com to save money today. I'm going to try to play the intro. We'll see how it goes. This is very exciting. You know what? Let's just jump in and let's talk hoops because I don't even know where the intro went. I can play this. There you go. Go to Trusted American. Got that part down. But why don't I have our fun intro? Here we go.
Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show.
All righty. Plenty to get into, my friends, because your Nuggets are in a bit of trouble. I need to adjust my camera a little too as we're doing this here. We're doing this all in real time, but we're gonna try to make sense of this and try to figure out, what's next. And God dang, promises used to be set. There we go. Good enough. Because the Nuggets are now firmly in the fourth spot, and with what's going on with the Rockets, it gets a little bit even more complicated because I'm saying the Rockets, the Warriors and the Rockets, because, Houston's at least asserted themselves, but the Nuggets are a full game back now of the Lakers as it stands, and we'll kind of keep you apprised. 91-81, Houston's up 10. You watch that game on NBA TV, but as you're hanging out here with us, I don't know exactly how to put too many positive spins on, or any positive spin really, on what the Nuggets just did, other than it. They've been in good enough shape, I guess, to kind of hold on to that third, fourth, fifth spot. And so as they're doing that, they're still kind of right in that mix. And I think you also just have to go ahead and wrap your mind around the idea that you're going to see Oklahoma City maybe sooner than you want. But in order to get where you need to go, you're going to have to beat OKC anyway. And I just don't know if this team will or won't. So as we scroll through some of the comments, I'll try to pick the ones that make the most sense. But as Cedric said right off the top, thought he was talking to Liv. Either way, I know Liv is checking in on me and checking in on us, making sure everybody's doing okay, all things considered. I know she'll try to get into it as best she can tomorrow and get her take. But with no Jamal, it was going to be hard. The Pacers are playing good basketball right now, and the Nuggets aren't. 4 losses in a row. You've got to recover. And now they're going to hit the road for a couple, right? They're going to go to Sacramento, and then right after that, they'll come home to take on Memphis Friday. But now just 3 games left. They had 4. The Lakers had 5 going in to today, and they ran OKC out of the gym, even with SGA and Jamal Williams playing. So you got to be a little nervous if you're the Nuggets, because I think even though you have to see OKC, you don't want to see them too early. And as I'm seeing these comments, hey, we could have won this. Cedric offers this one. I hope we find our way back. I think. And I'm not going to go out of my way to be the therapist that I always am, if you will, for Nuggets fans. But I think that when you look at it and say, we still have the best player in the world, and tonight he gives you another triple-double, a 40-point triple-double, and if you just get a little more help, we always look at that 3-point number. They were so atrocious from behind the line in the first half, and then to finish out the game, just 8 of 31. And 8 3-pointers isn't going to win. Isn't going to win playoff games. You're gonna need to be over 10. You're gonna be over 10 every game, and you're gonna need to get more help beyond just Joker. If someone says MPJ needs to go, he obviously had a nice putback dunk, but you don't get brownie points just because it was a cool dunk. And so I think that if I'm the Nuggets and I'm the leadership of the Nuggets, I'm looking in the mirror and this is probably one of those games where, and I don't know if Malone's even pulled this card, but where he kind of can freak out on them because he had everybody kind of back healthy except for Jamal, obviously, and you're just not getting enough. MPJ gets you 15, AG just 5. He's been shooting the ball so great. He only takes 1 3, but he still played 30 minutes. Christian Brown, obviously huge with his 30. Christian Brown and Joker are going to bring it every night. Jalen Pickett, he's not Russell Westbrook. We know what he does well. We know what he doesn't. And neither are Jamal Murray. Peyton Watson, good energy, good defense, had those 3 blocks. But he just took 2 shots the whole night. And then Julian Strawther, obviously working his way back, goes 3 for 6 from the field, but 0 for 3, and you lose by 5. And so, the Lakers do have 4 more games this week, but the Nuggets are going to need a little help from the Lakers' opponents. And so I think being nervous, it's fair to be nervous because the Nuggets haven't played well of late. And so when I see the 4 losses in a row, I get nervous because they're going to run out of time to kind of figure this out. So this from my man Brian, why should the Nuggets be nervous? Well, because they're not playing good basketball and they're not great on defense. Their offense has been fine, but tonight not even good enough. Without Jamal, we know the Joker was great, but those 8 threes just aren't going to get it done. They were 53% from the field. You take that, and you still need to be better at the line. They missed 6 free throws. They were 12 of 18. 66% is not great. That's really the difference in the game because the Pacers were 18 of 21, and so they only missed 3, and they got the line more, and they made 6 more. They didn't necessarily kill you. Even Tyrese Halliburton was certainly kept in check with just 9 points, but 24 from Miles Turner. And when you have somebody that can actually score inside, that's always going to pose a bit of a challenge. And then 22 from Obi Toppin, but they end up knocking in 15 threes. That's twice as many threes. And the Nuggets are still right there, but you're going to have to make more threes. You're going to have to play better defense. And this is a playoff team, but in the playoffs, especially in round 1, where you're either going to get Golden State as it stands now, or maybe you'll end up jumping up and getting whoever the 6th seed is. If you can jump up to 3, then maybe there'll be nights where you don't need the 3 ball to fall. But I think to win in this modern NBA, you have to be able to make big threes. And so as I'm looking at some of these comments here, and this one's kind of spot on. The defense is atrocious. The team isn't serious. It's roster construction, not Malone. To me, Westbrook is a liability. See, I'm not going to give you that Westbrook is a liability. I think he's a liability in crunch time. And I think we saw that on full display the other night against the Spurs, where he makes the great steal, misses the layup that he didn't even need to take. Now, I know he hadn't been great from the free throw line, so if he pulls it out and gets fouled, but he could also just pass it over to Christian Brown, who's a much better free throw shooter. And then he has the foul as time expires. And so you're sitting there scratching your head saying, okay, what is Russ doing? But Russ's energy does get you going at times. And I think he is good coming off the bench. I think it's just, can you count on him in crunch time in the playoffs? I wouldn't want to. They may have to with where Jamal Murray is. And so I think that it's going to be something to keep an eye on. But they're not going to just sit Russell Westbrook. Roster construction being what it is, I guess the argument is you just need more 3-point shooters around Joker because Peyton Watson's the defender first, and that's why he's out there. Julian Strawther's a shooter, and he has to just work his way back into full basketball game shape. Jamal Murray is a killer in the playoffs, and so will you get that version of Jamal Murray? We'll find out here soon enough, we think. Michael Malone pregame said that this is a tricky injury. And so can he get back on the court Wednesday in Sacramento or Friday when they host Memphis? And we know that Memphis obviously reeling with the stuff going on with John Morant and firing their coach. So I'd love to say that, you'll at least bounce back Friday no matter what, but you need to go beat the Kings. And the Kings gave the Nuggets everything they wanted last time they saw them. And so I think that you can sit here and beat up the team about roster construction. That's really a conversation for whenever the season ends. If they get swept in or have an early exit, you can say that, all right, the roster construction was faulty. But right now you got to figure out, okay, who's healthy? What's the best way for Michael Malone to use them and construct his rotations? And obviously we know that it can be matchup dependent, depending on a given night, a given opponent. And so I think it's gonna, you'll have to push and pull. How much do you play DeAndre Jordan versus how much do you play Zeke Naji versus how much do you play Jalen Pickett, who certainly earned some playing time, but with Julian Strawther back healthy, if Jamal Murray can get back sooner than later, does Jalen Pickett even see the floor during the playoffs beyond just, a minute at the end of a half? I don't really know. Nolan has said that Joker said this is a play-in team. Well, they're certainly playing like one right now, and they could still slip there if they don't straighten up real quickly. But as it stands, and I had the score a second ago, if Golden State's now down 13, so with under 4 minutes left, Houston up 13, it's going to snap the Warriors 6-game losing streak if this margin and result holds. And so then the Nuggets will be a game ahead of the Warriors and a game behind the Lakers. I was going to check the Lakers schedule just to see who there, because I know they have OKC again on Tuesday, but who knows what you get from OKC in terms of bodies that are out there. We did see SGA and Jalen Williams play today, but they didn't really do much. Chet Holmgren played today. They all played, but maybe they do get shut down Thursday. The Thunder aren't really playing for anything other than, I guess, to cement SGA's MVP case, but I think that's been cemented. So they'll play Tuesday in OKC after playing in OKC today and running them out 126-99, and they were up 25-30 kind of the whole game, really from the second quarter on. They're in Dallas, though, a night later, and we know the Mavs aren't going down quietly. The Rockets are at the Lakers, and then the Lakers end at the Trailblazers. I appreciate that the Rockets are playing hard and playing hard tonight, but you're going to need a little help from Dallas, and who knows what OKC is going to do on Tuesday, but the Nuggets may be just lining up for a first-round matchup with Golden State and then a second-round matchup with OKC, and there's no way around it. You're going to have to play OKC anyway. You're going to be the road team in that instance, as is, no matter when you played them. And so is there a world where they could be a play-in team? Absolutely. And Michael Malone said that a couple of weeks ago. That was before the 4 losses. And so as you look at kind of that path, you're certainly scoreboard watching. You're looking at the standings, but you need to control what you can control. And that's playing better defense and making more threes and getting to the line, being more aggressive and really locking in on defense, because you're playing against all playoff teams, playoff caliber teams. I guess we don't really know what to call this version of Memphis, but obviously there's going to be no nights off in these final 3 games. We saw how important the final 2 games were last year for playoff seeding. The Nuggets could have been the 1 seed, and that ultimately may not have changed anything, since they would have played Dallas and would have been the home team, if you will, the higher seed there as the 2 seed. But with Minnesota as the 3 seed, they got to come home last year for Game 7 of that second-round series. To win in the playoffs, you got to win at home and win on the road. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. I suppose there's a world where you only win home games, but the Nuggets haven't played well enough when it matters. And you can go back to some of their crappy losses. Both Wizards losses are bad. Do they have a couple good losses? The Warriors lost with no Jamal and no Joker a couple weeks ago. Sure. Warriors win, rather. Yeah. That one was great. The OKC win without Jamal early in the year. But you've got a couple of tough losses, including that one to the Spurs the other night, that are going to be those bad losses. Even when you get good wins, the bad losses are the reason that you end up slipping in the standings. And then this isn't a good or a bad loss. It's just a loss today. And I get that the Pacers are currently trending up, and they're the 4 seed at last check in the East. But you were at home, a place that they hadn't won in, I think I heard Chris Marlowe say 13 tries. So, and the Nuggets haven't been great through the last 13 years completely. We know that it's kind of come and gone. at times, especially in the post-Melo world. I guess we should also congratulate Carmelo Anthony as joining the new Hall of Fame class, along with Dwight Howard and a handful of others. Sue Bird had some ties to the Nuggets, working with their front office a couple of years ago. But Carmelo Anthony, after he left, we know that there were some lean years in the early Joker and Jamal days with Michael Malone. Even then, they were still beating the Pacers when Indiana would come to town. And they did beat the Pacers earlier this year at the start of, I guess that was the end of February. I would say start of March, end of February, because I was at that game in Indianapolis right before the combine started on that Tuesday. Cedric's back to this, and it says, hey, it feels bad, BK. It should feel bad. Look, I try to kind of be a calming presence around my extreme Nuggets fans in my life. Lives at the top of the list. My buddy Phil's up there. There's a handful of others, and it always feels like the sky is falling. I'm not saying the sky is falling, but the Nuggets, it's getting, well, what's the saying? It's getting late early. The Nuggets are running out of time to get locked in on defense. And there's nothing that you've seen in the last couple of weeks, but certainly these last 4 losses, that makes you think, oh, when they go to Sacramento Wednesday, when Memphis comes in Friday, when they close out the regular season Sunday in Houston, they're going to be totally locked in defensively. Now, I know exactly where Memphis's head's at. By Sunday, though, you could be picking up a win that could help you with your playoff seeding, although the Lakers will be playing the Blazers. So one thing I do know about the Blazers, they play hard, and Chauncey Billups has them playing hard. So I think that it's fair to be nervous, but you still have the best player in the world. And so as long as you have that guy, you're going to be closer than others. And you've done this before. We haven't seen Houston do this yet. Oh, the Nuggets and Warriors have actually flipped spots. Sorry, after the Nuggets loss. But when the Warriors game goes official, the Nuggets will slide back to 4th. They will be a game and a half behind the Lakers until the Lakers play Tuesday. And so we'll see what happens there. So, yeah, I was reading the standings before it had gotten updated. But, yeah, now that it's updated, they're a 5 seed. And I don't know if that necessarily matters. It's about that second round. But every time you're not a home team, you got to get a little nervous. And we do know Golden State has been playing better in the Jimmy Butler era and of late. So it's certainly nerve-wracking, and I get that. It probably should be when you're scratching and clawing, but 16 seconds left. So the Warriors are about to jump right behind the Nuggets again, and they're going to flip-flop, if I'm not mistaken, because there's 16 seconds left. So we'll keep an eye on that. But you're going to need a little bit of help this week, and that's your fault because you put yourself in this position. Now, I think the Nuggets can make sure they stay away from the play-in game by winning all 3 games, but it doesn't mean they will. And so I'd be nervous. I think nervous is a fair emotion, but I don't think you can hit the full-blown panic button because you have the ultimate equalizer. And in a playoff series, teams start to figure each other out. And I know these are big ifs because the Nuggets haven't really been healthy. They've only played 23-ish games with their actual starting 5 in the lineup. But with Jamal back, and we'll just say that he's back for now because the playoffs don't start till a week from Saturday. So he's got time to heal up with that hammy. And so Jamal, CB, who's obviously, I think, silenced any critics in terms of being able to replace KCP and then some. I don't remember too many 30-point games from KCP. And so to get that from CB and what you get with the effort and the athleticism, I think has been really good. MPJ, it's fair to criticize, and we're seeing plenty of criticisms in the comments, including from Kane. You can't really move MPJ even if you want. I mean, you could in the offseason. But when he's not really dialed in, are you getting enough from him if he's not scoring? Well, he's shown in the playoffs, certainly, but even throughout the regular seasons of late, that he will attack the glass and he will play some defense. But he, in some ways, is kind of the linchpin to their ability to take it to another level because of his length and athleticism and ability to rebound. And then AG is kind of constantly, it feels like, working himself back into true game shape. This is interesting. Joker needs to be traded for his legacy. He deserves to be on a better team. Well, Joker doesn't want to go anywhere. And as Cedric says, I'd hate to see Joker leave. Yeah, everybody would. You don't, unless you're the Dallas Mavericks, you don't trade MVP type players. You traded Carmelo because he was demanding out. Joker's the type of person that's going to sit down with Josh Kroenke and Calvin Booth and Michael Malone and figure out what do they need. That's why Russell Westbrook's here, because he thought Russell Westbrook would be a positive influence. And I think for the most part, he has. It's that because of circumstance and injury, he's had to play more than you'd like in crunch time. And that's really, really scary in the playoffs. But Jim's fed up. I get this. Murray, MPJ, and Gordon have to go. Now, this is where I will go on the other side and ask, okay, if you end up winning 2 rounds and get to the conference finals, do you then still blow it up? If you go in and beat, let's say you finish 4th, you beat the Warriors and you then go beat OKC, 4th or 5th. If you end up doing that, then are you still thinking, Jim, that they have to go? I think that it'd be interesting to see what the trade market is for Kevin Durant if the season falls apart, which it really does feel like it's on the brink. It's kind of teetering. And so I think that, the Nuggets at least have a chance to maybe right the ship and in some ways, obviously silence critics like so many people in these comments. And so we're going to hear from Malone here shortly. I'm just waiting until it comes in, but we should get something from the head coach. I guess I want to ask you, list the teams whose rosters you like better, 1 to 9. Okay, 1 to 9. Do you like the Lakers roster after their top 3? Would you rather have Dorian Finney-Smith right now? I just don't think that's going to move the needle for anyone. And do you want Jackson Hayes instead of Aaron Gordon? Like, this is a dumb conversation. I'm not saying that the Nuggets roster is perfect, and it is just a full miss on MPJ in a lot of ways. And so I think that it's fair to ask what else can we do? What's out there? But you want to get rid of all those guys. The question then becomes, okay, how are you replacing them? You can cut everybody. I guess you can make trades, but that we used to always do this when Carmelo wanted to be traded. I was working at 104.3 The Fan at the time, and you'd have people call up and say, we should trade Melo for 2 1s and 2 2s. Okay, well, who's doing that trade? Nobody was making that trade. Also, you got to make money work. So I get that it's frustrating. Speaking of frustrating, let's hear from Michael Malone and what he had to say post-game following this loss.
Coach, feels like you guys get used to having the Murray Jokic actions down the stretch. What happened with some of the turnovers?
Yeah, I think in the only 13 for the game, but I think 6 in the fourth quarter. Yeah, just unfortunate. And I was just telling Russ, I got him out. I thought Russ was great tonight, and he'd run a long stretch. I got Jalen back in the game. Then I had that inner conversation, hey, I got to get Russ back out there. And then Jalen did a few things, but really costly turnovers at a key stretch of the game. And we've become so accustomed to seeing us execute and make big shots and get the right shot. And obviously we just didn't have that tonight. Quarters 2 and 3, we guarded nobody. You give up 37 and 37. That's problematic. And obviously we go 8 of 31 from 3. They make 15. The 3-point line was a big part of tonight as well. But I'll start with me. We've lost 4 games in a row, and I'm never going to this guy, that guy. How about me as a head coach? Not doing my job to the best of my ability, and that's what I challenge over our guys. We haven't lost 4 in a row in a long time, and it's really easy, to be together and say family when you win, but when you're losing games, can you stay together? And do you have the balls, do you have the courage to go home and look in the mirror and say, what can I be doing better to help this team? And Sacramento, Memphis, Houston, no one's going to feel sorry for us. And so we put ourselves in this hole, and we only have ourselves to pull ourselves out of it. And I look forward to seeing how we respond. Three-point line. Yeah, I mean, Obi Toppin, he had a hell of a game. Naismith hits 3, Obi hits 4, Turner hits 4, Walker off the bench hits 3. I mean, so I would say that's 2 games against Tyrese Halliburton. Not only did we hold him down, but game 1 he had 11 field goal attempts. Tonight he had 8 field goal attempts. But he had 15 assists in game 1 and 13 tonight. We had some defensive breakdowns in our rotations that proved to be costly in a lot of those. And you just can't have those. We just had some costly mistakes at inopportune times that were just too much to overcome.
I appreciate that Michael Malone is taking accountability. He praised Russell Westbrook's game tonight, and I don't think Russell was the reason they lost. 8 threes and giving up 15. That's part of it. Not playing any defense in the second and third quarter. You watch the first quarter, Joker has 21. He's cruising to a triple-double with, I think 4 boards, 3 assists. I tweet, okay, this is what you want to see because it's 33-25. You do that 3 more times, and you win going away. I get that you're not going to win by every quarter by 8, but then you just stop guarding, and it's a problem that they were able to overcome last year. And this year they just haven't been able to consistently. I know that they've had stretches where they've won a bunch of games. And so when they do that, you got to feel good about where they are. But it's not consistent enough on the defensive end. And so maybe they're fooling themselves, or maybe they're fooling everybody in the NBA that they really can lock in defensively. And that might be one area where it is fair to say that KCP is missed. And so I'm not, going down that road in that, KCP would be better for this team than CB. Just KCP's true defensive presence as a guy who's on an all defensive team kind of level. And thus his communication, his anticipation, the fact that he never misses games, all of that. I think that they're missing that component from KCP's game, KCP's presence more than anything. That's probably not talked about enough because you look at, 78 games in, this team should, or 79 games in, this team should be pretty well defined. But, I'm seeing everybody go back and forth in the comments about, and this from Jim here, that Malone's lost the locker room, get him out of here. Depending on how the season ends, and, I've talked to some people around the team, and certainly very much in the know. If they fall to the play-in, and who knows how that goes, but if they get bounced in the first round, I think all bets are off. I know that Josh Kroenke and Michael Malone have a great relationship, and I know that Josh and Calvin and Michael Malone seem to have a good working relationship. But if you end up losing in the first round, whether you're regardless of seed, and if they fall to the play-in, then they're 7th or 8th. Now there's a world where falling to the 7th isn't the worst thing because you would play Houston, and I like their chances there. And then in the second round, you play very likely the Lakers as the 3 seed. But I don't think they're in as big a hurry to run Michael Malone out of here as fans are. And I understand it's the nature of fans. Jim did add that we've got Russ and Saric for KCP. KCP wanted more money and a better opportunity for him. And so he's in Orlando. This says, BK, you're wrong. We can't be a play-in team. Oh, they can't even fall that far. All right, well, good. Then there you go. I haven't done the math to figure that out. So they can't be a play-in team, but falling to 6th, still, it's the same kind of theory. Now you play the Lakers in round 1 and very likely Houston in round 2. And you've had the Lakers number in the playoffs, but this is a different Lakers because I think that clearly LeBron and Luka and now Austin Reeves have figured it out. And it feels like the ceiling for Austin Reeves is higher, but when you're playing with those guys, you're going to get so many easy looks and so many open shots. So I think that it's no easy cakewalk there with the Lakers. Now, High Wisdom offers this to play Jokic at the 4, get a good defensive big, and that would be insane since he's already passing like a guard. Well, I don't know who that big is. Like, even if you just played him next to DeAndre Jordan, the way the offense works, it runs through Joker. I think the argument would be if you could find just a more athletic defensive 4, if that person even exists, and I don't know who that is. Aaron Gordon would seem close, but he's not a rim protector, shot blocker. And I know that they give up a lot of points in the paint, but the teams they play against are going to shoot a lot of threes, and that's where they end up getting beaten, is that they don't shoot anywhere near as many threes. Now, you do have the stat that when Joker's on the floor, the Nuggets are the most productive offense in the history of basketball, and certainly number 1 this year. And when he's off the floor, they're the worst offense in the NBA this year. And it's that drastic. Yeah, I guess you're right. Jim says they didn't want to go into the second apron to sign KCP. And so that would have given them probably more options. I think that's where it'll be interesting to see how those guys are I don't say taken to task, but certainly how the accountability for Josh and Stan specifically, because it's their money. But will it make sense to go into that second apron, because they're close to it now next year, because you're trying to help Joker, and having KCP back would have helped Joker, obviously, although it may have limited Christian Braun's growth. Not that he wouldn't have gotten there, but slowed it, I guess. And so I think that going into the second apron, or even the third apron, which is, I want to say, where the Warriors were a couple of years ago, for a championship, to me would be worth it. I don't know exactly the financial breakdown, but what I'm getting at is you need to start asking Josh and Stan correctly. I say you, I mean, I'm part of the you. Would you consider going into that second or even third apron while you've got Joker truly in his prime as the best player on the planet, even if it's going to cost you X millions of dollars? Because the one thing that company doesn't have a problem with is making money. Arsenal makes money. The Nuggets make money. The Avs are making money now thanks to the new TV deal in hockey. And the LA Rams certainly make money. And the Rapids don't lose money, is my understanding. And especially now with Altitude being distributed differently, plus Altitude Plus, like, revenue is not an issue for Stan and Josh Kroenke, especially we know that Josh's mom, Ann Walton Kroenke, is also worth about $12 or $16 billion. Kind of she and Stan have matching net worths separately on their own. So why wouldn't it be worth going, and we're just making numbers up here, but 10 million, 20 million, 30 million, 50 million to make sure you have more help for Joker? Because the one thing you can't buy, no matter how much money you have, you can't truly buy a championship. There's nothing you can do to buy that ring. You continue to tweak and try to find the right pieces, mix and match, and that's maybe the other thing that might work to the Nuggets' advantage come playoff time. Very few teams stay healthy the whole ride. But because the Nuggets have played so many lineups this season out of necessity, there's a scenario where they're going to get into the later part of a playoff series, which should come right off the bat, and they're going to be forced to deal with some sort of injury or suspension or whatever. And I say suspension only because thinking about like guys like Draymond Green, who, when you kick a player in the private area, that'll get you a game suspension, especially when it's a flying kick. But the point being, when other teams hit those bumps in the road, are they as well prepared as the Nuggets are, who've had to play so many lineups? Now, it's easy to kind of look for, a positive spin on it, and we'll only know when it happens. But they are going to be ready for whatever is thrown their way in terms of roster construction on a given night, or rotations, I guess is a better way to say it, on a given night. This from Kane Carter. Why is Malone benching Russ instead of starting him? In my opinion, the best way to use him is to start him, but bench him in the end of close games to keep his rhythm and confidence high. I think that they're trying to amp up for the playoffs. So tonight it was less about Jalen Pickett and more about the rotation of Russ and Julian Strother and Peyton Watson with Russ and Joker, and what those minutes look like with the second unit. and Jalen Pickett playing the role of Jamal, because starting Russ would have helped you energy wise off the rip, but you were up by 8 at the end of the first. And we know the Nuggets have been one of the worst first quarter teams in the league. So I think that I have no problem with what Malone did. I think that he was just trying to get this rotation dialed in for the playoffs. Although he did go to DeAndre Jordan kind of early. This prediction is interesting from our guy Jim here. Joker's going back to Serbia, saying to himself, "Why the f am I busting my ass for these guys? Why is this kind of stuff happening?" He'll probably retire, after his contract's up. I do know this because I asked him a few weeks ago with his little boy, and maybe this will change. But when I asked, would he stick around and play longer, and he turned 30, so this is when it was on his 30th birthday. It was right after the All-Star break, so it was a month ago or 6 weeks ago, whatever that is. Would he stick around and play longer the way someone like Drew Brees did? And I know some of y'all heard me say that on here. And he said, no, I'm selfish. And so we know he wants to get back to Serbia. But the one thing that he loves, and people don't realize this, Joker loves playing basketball. I don't know if he loves practice. I think he likes practice if it's not going to affect him. I think he loves playing basketball. And as Christian Brown let us in on a little secret, he really loves watching basketball. That's why he knows other teams' play calls on both sides of the court, on offense and defense. And so I just think that's the reason Joker's going to stay. Yeah. And then look, there's, I think, 3 years left on this deal. So to worry about what's going to happen in 4 seasons is, I get that's the nature of being a fan, but right now, just finish this season. The fact that everyone's just conceding that they're going to get bounced in the first round or get bounced early, I can understand the nervousness. It's fair. But let's just see how it plays out. The Thunder have never been, able beyond this version of Thunder to really go deep here in the SGA era. The Rockets are as upstart as they get. The Lakers, for as good as LeBron and certainly Luka are they going to have enough, even with Austin Reeves around them in playoff games when every single game matters? Will they have enough? I know they play really good defense. Will they be able to sustain that? The Warriors, will Steph and Jimmy Butler and Draymond hold up, and will they be enough with the pieces around them? And so I think, I'm just looking at the top 4 teams. Yeah, we know what Minnesota will be if you end up having to face the Timberwolves. But I think the Nuggets, if they're healthy and if Jamal's healthy, and not like the way he was dealing with stuff last year, but like really, really healthy. If Jamal's healthy, then I think all opportunities are on the table. I don't say all options are on the table, but I think that opens everything up because Jamal's such a primetime player in the playoffs. He goes to another level, and we all get frustrated with how he plays out of the gate in the early months in late October and most of November and December. So he's never going to be an all-star. Well, he didn't seem to be that interested in it, but we know how dialed in he can be. It's just, will his body allow him? And, he broke down at the end of the year last year and toughed it out, and obviously made some huge shots in that Lakers series and even some huge shots against Minnesota, but didn't look like himself. Didn't even really look like himself in the Olympics. But I think that overall, if and when you have a healthy Jamal and everyone's mostly healthy right now, I like the Nuggets' chances, especially against these inexperienced playoff teams. Experience matters, especially in the playoffs. The Celtics won it all last year, but Jason Tatum's had to go through some tough losses. He and Jaylen Brown have had to weather the storm on some really, really tough defeats. And so I think that the Nuggets could end up being the beneficiaries of just their playoff experience. Now here, this is the final comment I'll get to unless something really catches my eye before I get out of here. This Nuggets team is done. Even if healthy, they have no shot. No defense. The pieces don't fit. MPJ, not a good fit. Jamal is done for the year. If Jamal's done for the year, then I think it becomes really hard. But we know how much Joker can control a game. And it's just, I think, a little short-sighted to assume that the best player in the world is just going to roll over and let this thing ride off till the end of the year and be done with it. I'll feel a little better, I think, and I think you guys as Nuggets fans should, if they go to Sacramento and win and play some defense. And then if they come back here and Friday night, play some defense against Memphis, I think you'll feel better all the way around. But I think that ultimately we just won't know till the playoffs start. That's kind of the bottom line. And I said that would be the last one, but here, consistency matters in the playoffs. This team has been consistent. Now they've been consistently inconsistent on defense, or that their consistency has been playing poor defense, as we heard Michael Malone say. I thought we were going to hear from Christian Brown, but I'm going to get out of here because I'm going to save that for Liv tomorrow. I really do appreciate everybody rolling with me. Liv will be back tomorrow for Off Court, and then I believe she's got post-game shows coming after these next 3 regular season games, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm sure I will participate in some form or fashion as well. But everybody that rocked with us tonight, yeah, it's weird seeing 4 straight losses. Don't totally hit the panic button yet, but you can certainly place your finger over it because, yeah, at this point we are kind of in a, I guess we'll see mode, and so that's where you got to live. But remember, when you go to sleep at night, your team has the best player in the world on it, and that's a good starting point. And then if the rest of the pieces can fall in, and if Jamal can get healthy, and if KF is wrong that he's not done for the year, then I think it could get really interesting. That's the best part about the playoffs, is how interesting it can get, and how long it is, and how many different twists and turns it can take. So don't totally panic yet. You can start thinking about panicking and start thinking about the offseason moves you would want them to make, but there's no reason to dwell on that now. See if you can message your favorite players and get them to start playing better defense as a team. Say, what's it going to take for you guys to be cohesive, to talk, to communicate? And I do think that when Aaron Gordon's out there, that helps Joker defensively immensely, and they just haven't been out there together very much. In fact, the data supports that. But we will continue this conversation tomorrow, as Liv will have Off Court, and then we will catch you again later in the week as well. So thank you again for spending part of your Sunday with me, and go Nuggets. Thanks to Trusted American Mortgage, by the way, too. Go to trustedamerican.com to see how they can help you save on your refinance. They'll help you. They'll cover your appraisal fee, which is like a $650 value. You won't have to make a payment for a couple of months. So you can go to Trusted American Mortgage. That's the one thing I know how to do, is put that up here on the screen. Go to Trusted American and click on that QR code, or scan it. I guess you can't click on a QR code. Go to trustedamerican.com and see how much they can help you save today. Again, for Liv Moods and everybody here at Gorilla, I appreciate it, and I will catch you guys next time. But keep everything locked to everything we're doing here at Gorilla Sports, and as Liv likes to say, go Nuggets.